looks so weird, everyone eating popcorn. We should do this like all the time, right? That would be fun. That's like big popcorn, like our little Proclaimers trademark. That would be good fun. I was excited to see a bit of that. The Bourne movie was up there as well. I love a Bourne film. That one especially because I love a Mini. Any former Mini owners? Like real Minis, not like these new nonsense things. The real Mini owners. Yes, hello to the Mini owners. Not you. You can't even drive, Scott McCrum. Lying in church. That's terrible, isn't it? Anyway, we're not talking about Bourne tonight. We are talking about the Disney Pixar movie Inside Out. Hands up if you've seen that movie. Okay, hands up if you haven't seen the movie. This just helps me. Oh, it's like quite a split in the room. Okay, well basically for those of you who haven't seen the film before, Inside Out is the story of an 11-year-old girl called Riley. And basically her dad gets a new job and she has to move to a different city in America. The difference is that we see Riley's experience of this story and this life change that she goes through from inside her head. That's why it's called Inside Out. Get it? Clever, isn't it? Well done, Disney. But that's why it's called Inside Out, because what we see inside Riley's head is she has 5 characters who are her 5 emotions living in her head. So you've got fear, disgust, anger, joy, and sadness. And she's got these 5 emotions living in her head. And joy is the main character, and she's kind of obvious, like she's all about being joyful, she's always positive, she's all about having fun. And then you've got sadness, who's kind of the opposite, and she always sees the worst in everything, and she just can't walk because life is so bad. But I've got a clip for you that introduces some of the other emotions. So eat your popcorn and enjoy this. So that kind of gives those of you that haven't seen the film a bit of an idea how the film goes on as we see these 5 emotions inside Riley's head kind of interpreting everything that's going on in her world. But the problem is that in the journey of Riley's family moving to a new city, something happens inside her head, and basically joy and sadness end up being taken out of the control center there, and they end up lost away from the control center in her long-term memory. And so the story is about sadness and joy trying to find their way back to the control center to complete the emotions that Riley needs. And you know, this is a really fun film when it comes to looking at how our brain works. Like, there's a brilliant bit where they've got like dream productions, and there's like the rainbow unicorn who features heavily in Riley's dreams. And then they've got the train of thought, and you've got the long-term memory. And it's a brilliant look at how our brains work and all the different areas that make up our brains and how our personality is formed. But the clip that really stood out for me is a clip involving an imaginary friend that Riley had when she was a younger little girl. And she's got this imaginary friend who's predominantly made of candy floss. He's also a little bit cat, he's a little bit dolphin, and he's a little bit elephant as well. And his name is Bing Bong. And when they're lost in long-term memory, sadness and joy bump into Bing Bong, the dolphin, elephant, cat, candy floss creature, and ask him to help them get back to the control center. And as you'd expect in any movie, things go a little bit wrong. And Joy and Bing Bong end up finding themselves in a place that's the memory dump. And the memory dump is where all of Riley's memories go that she hasn't thought about for a long time, and eventually they disappear out of existence. So this is not a good place for Joy and Bing Bong to be. Check out what happens next. Did anybody well up? Be honest. Yeah, there's a few hands sneaking up. I'm sorry, I've picked like the saddest point in the movie as we see Bing Bong sacrifice his life in order that Joy can get back to Riley and she can experience joy in her life again. And I know that this is a really, really sad scene in the movie and it's a bit of a tearjerker, but you know, the thing about this particular scene that caught my attention when I was preparing my message is that in order for the rocket rainbow car that Joy and Bing Bong are flying in there, in order for the rocket car to take off, in order for the rocket car to be able to soar as high as it could, in order for the rocket car to be able to hit the goal for which it was achieving, in order for the rocket car to soar through the sky, it needed to lose some weight. And Bing Bong knew that. Bing Bong knew that having the two of them in the car was just too much weight for the rocket car to be able to fly. He knew there was too much weight in that rocket car that was holding it back and weighing it down. And so he chose to sacrifice himself in order to lighten the load and in order to save Riley. He knew that in order for the main character to be able to move on in her life, something had to be left behind. And how true can that be for our lives as well? That in order to move forward in life, sometimes we need to leave something behind. Because we all want to live life well, don't we? Like, I don't think many people set out with the plan of living the most terrible life that they can. We all want to live life well. You know, we all want to have some great experiences. We all want to see dreams fulfilled. We all want to have fun. We all want to enjoy life. We want to live a safe life. We want to have good friends. We want to make brilliant memories. We all want to have a great life, right? I think every single one of us, whoever we are, whatever our backgrounds, we all have that in common in this room this evening, that we all want to live a great life. But how often can we end up having things in our life that are stopping us from soaring into the life that we each want? How often can we end up carrying things with us through our life that are slowing us down, things that are weighing us down, like Bing Bong was weighing down that rocket car and it couldn't quite reach it. It couldn't quite get to where it wanted to. It couldn't quite achieve it, which meant Riley wasn't going to be able to move forward in her life. How often do we end up with things in the cart of our life, if you want, that are weighing us down, slowing us down and holding us back? Sometimes we're just carrying too much weight on the inside of who we are that we can't move forward like we want to. And the Bible sums up this dynamic really well for us in a book called Hebrews. And Hebrews is a letter that was written by a man called Paul to some Hebrew people. There's a clue there. And so I'm going to read this to you from Hebrews. It's in chapter 12 of this letter from verse 1. And Paul says, "Let us lay aside every weight and the sin which so easily ensnares us, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us." Now, just to clarify that in this particular verse, what Paul isn't talking about is about us all running a race where we compete with each other. Like, he's not talking about running a race where we're trying to see, well, who can get there faster than the other, who's better than who can go further than who. He's not talking about that. But what Paul is explaining for us and using in this illustration is that each and every one of us in this room, we all have a journey called life. We all have our own race to run. And Paul's talking about that unique individual race that we all have to run, that we want to live our life and we want to run our race well. And you see, Paul totally gets the dynamic of Bing Bong and the rocket car. He totally gets it. You see, Paul understands that when it comes to us wanting to move forward in life, when it comes to us running the race that is before us, when it comes to us taking ground, when it comes to us trying to be successful, when it comes to us moving forwards in life and seeing the dreams that it is that we want to see fulfilled and being the person that we want to be and seeing our family come on that journey with us, that when it comes to the race that you and I have before us, our race called life, Paul understands that in order for us to each run our race, we need to make sure that we're not carrying too much weight in life with us. Paul knows that there are things that we can pick up in our journey that can slow us down and weigh us down in life. In fact, in the verse, I find it interesting because Paul says about laying aside every weight and the sin which so easily ensnares us. You know, so if you feel like there's a weight in your life, if you feel like there's something that's holding you back, that's quashing your potential, that's stopping you moving forward as you know that you would like to be moving forward in life, don't worry. Like, don't worry in the sense that you're a bad person or you've got it wrong or you're not doing well enough or other people are doing better than you, because Paul says this happens easily. Like, it can easily happen to us. We can easily get slowed down. We can easily pick things up. He knows there are things we can pick up along the way that actually starts to slow us down. So let's take a look at what it is Paul says we can do about this dynamic and how we can make sure that it doesn't bring us to a total standstill. Now, I've got a bit of an illustration to help us out on this one. So if I could request my props. And I tell you what, from up here, I don't know if you can smell it down there, but it really smells like a cinema up here. Can you smell the popcorn? It's like popcorn wafts coming at me, waves of popcorn smell coming up at me right here. It really does smell like a cinema. Okay, so let's get back to this verse from Hebrews. So Paul points to us in this particular verse 2 categories of things that can slow us down. So firstly, he talks about the sin that can so easily entangle us. So let's think about it like bags. Okay, so first of all, a sin that we could pick up. Like maybe in life you've got a bit of an anger issue. And so you've got this thing in your life, and you can sometimes, kind of like the character that we just saw there on Inside Out, you can pick up a bit of an anger issue, and people kind of know they've got to be careful around you because you got your anger and they're never sure when you're going to let it out of the bag. So you've kind of picked up a bit of a thing in your journey called life, which we're calling anger. Then it could be that perhaps you've got a bit of a jealousy issue, like maybe something happened, perhaps at high school, perhaps at uni, perhaps it's your sister, perhaps it's your brother, I don't know, but you're a little bit jealous, every so often, like something comes up and it just reminds you that, oh yeah, I'm a bit jealous of them. I'm a bit jealous in that area of my life. And then it might be, I don't know, perhaps it's something to do with like an adultery, Now, in the Bible, it's interesting because you might think, oh, well, I'd never do something like that. But interestingly, when Jesus explained to us some of the sins that we read about and the things that we think of that are big sins, Jesus explained that, do you know what, even if you look lustfully at another person, then that's as bad as the act of adultery itself. So, maybe that's been a bit of a thing for you in life. And, you've kind of looked lustfully, or you've been on some websites that you shouldn't go on, or you flick through some magazines that you shouldn't flick through, and you've kind of just got this, it's not like a major deal or anything, but, you've just kind of picked it up a little bit along the way. Okay. And so then life carries on and everything's good and everything's going really well. And then you take a little bit of offense. And so you've got this bag now. Okay, so you've got this offense and you've kind of spoken about it, and you maybe chatted to a few people and you've explained a little bit, this is what happened, and can you see it really wasn't fair what they said to me, and it really wasn't fair what they did to me, and it's not a deal, it's just small. It's not as full as you may think it is, but I've just picked up just a little bit of an offense issue. And then, you carry on going through life, and then all of a sudden, unforgiveness. Hello. Now this is going way back. Like this one's been with you for years, but you just tried to kind of keep it a little bit around the back. But I've got this unforgiveness issue, and this person, like, they did this to me, and I know Jesus says I should forgive them, but it's quite a nice bag, actually, isn't it? It's got pineapples on, and they're properly on trend at the moment. So maybe I'm going to hang on to my unforgiveness for a little bit longer. So, Paul talks about these sins that we can pick up in our life. But interestingly, he doesn't just stop right there, does he? Because Paul talks about sins and weights, which gets me thinking that there's 2 categories of things that Paul's been talking to us about. You see, you've got sins, things where we miss the mark of the standard that God would have for each and every one of us, things that don't match up to the way that God would choose for you and I to live. We've got these sins, but the weights are something a little bit different. You see, the weights, they're not sins. Like, they're not something that you need to feel bad about. They're not kind of listed in the Bible as a sin, but I tell you what, they can be a bit of a weight in life. So what weights have you picked up? Like, it could be a weight that's to do with a person. Maybe there's a person in your life, and they're not the best influence on you, and that, when I'm with them, they kind of, distract me, or, they don't really support me or encourage me, or they put me down, or they kind of, encourage me to do things that maybe don't fit with my values. And, it's not a sin hanging out with that person, but I tell you what, it's a bit of a weight, and it's slowing me down, and it's holding me up, and it's stopping me from moving forward. What else could be a weight? I wonder. Here we go. This one's interesting. We're going to take this one. Okay. So now you've got your weight of a lack of personal organization. Now, this one isn't a sin either, but I tell you what, it's going to slow you down. Who's tried running through an airport with one of these horrible things, and it just like smacks into everything, and then you come to the escalators, and it does that thing when it like twists everywhere, and like, oh my gosh, even when you get the ones with those amazing like go everywhere wheels, it still seems to like break your arm somehow as you're running through an airport. But you've got this lack of personal organization, and it could be to do with finances. It could be to do with how you manage your time. It could be something to do with how you don't look after your health, and you know you should be getting more sleep, or you know you should be eating better, or you know you should be kind of doing a bit more exercise, but just because of a lack of organization. And it's not a sin, but it's slowing you down as you run through the journey of life. You know, maybe you've got a weight that's a bit more like this one. You've got a love for charity shops, like the charity shop bag here. You've got a love for charity shops. No, but you've got a weight in your life that's a distraction. And I don't know what that is, but you know this is a distraction in my life that I don't need. It's a distraction in my life that's slowing, I'm getting out of breath. It's a distraction in my life that's slowing me down from doing all the things that I want to do. That actually, when it comes to a skill that I want to learn, when it comes to a career change I want to take, when it comes to improving my education and my study, I have to take this with me to work, and it's a distraction. You know, it could be just spending too much time on a computer game. It's gone really quiet. But you know what? It could be a distraction that you're spending all your time playing on the computer. It's not a sin, but it's distracting you from other things that you know you want to be doing with your life. And you've got all these bags, and you've got a couple of sins, and you've got your backpack of anger, and you're carrying all this stuff, and you're trying to do life, and you've got to go to work, and you're at your computer. Wait, where's your arms down? And you're trying to like be at work, or you're trying to take your notes. You do it like that nowadays, don't you? At university, we used to write when I went to university, but now you'll do it on like a little, probably a MacBook, don't you? Yes. Or an iPad, yeah. But you're at work and you're typing away, or you're at uni and you're taking your lectures, but it's really awkward to like put your hand up to answer the question. And then you get home and you still got them all with you, and you're going to go to bed. You've got your duvet. It's really hot for a duvet. And you're getting into bed. And you just can't get comfortable at night. You can't sleep. You're restless. You need to listen to Phil's message from the morning about restlessness. Because when I try and roll over, I just can't do it. Because there are these sins and there are these weights. And they've easily tangled me. And I can't get up in the morning and go to work. But what sins and weights have we picked up? Can we even stand up? Yeah! But you know what? This is what Paul's talking about. He's talking about the fact that we can easily pick up these different issues in life. Some of them are sins and some of them are just weights, but all of them are a hindrance. That when it comes to running our race, when it comes to moving forward, when it comes to taking ground, we're being held back, we're being dragged down, we're being slowed down. Sometimes your bags are so big and so full that they bring you to a standstill, and you can't even take one more step because you're too hot and sweaty. You can't even take one more step because you've got blisters in your hands and it's starting to hurt you because you're carrying too many sins and you're carrying too many weights in your life. No wonder we end up getting frustrated in life. No wonder we end up thinking the dream is never going to happen. No wonder we end up thinking we're never going to make it. No wonder we start wondering, well, maybe the grass is greener on the other side, but then we get there and we've still got all of our bags with us. No wonder we feel frustrated and disillusioned at times, and like life is a bit mundane and life can be like a bit of a drag. No wonder these things happen to us because we're carrying too much weight in our rocket car. We've got too much on board. And you know, sometimes it can be a really big issue, like my little purple Ryanair approved flight bag. It could be a bigger issue. You could have like your massive traveler backpack thing on that they look bigger than the people at the airport. Have you seen those people with those massive bags? How do they do that? But it could be a big sin, it could be a big weight, and it's really obvious to you, and you know that that's a major issue for you in your life. But sometimes it can be like the small things. Have you ever been on a walk in your wellies and you get a stone in there? Has anyone had that moment? But then because you've got wellies on, way too much effort to do the gumboot gonna try and get my welly off in order to get the stone out. So you just try to keep walking with the stone, and you can get somewhere and you don't want to make a fuss about it, but it's slowing you down and it's starting to hurt and it's starting to cause a blister. And sometimes some of these sins and weights, it might just be like a smaller thing. It might not seem like a big deal. It's nothing major, and we play it down, but actually it can be like that little stone in your welly boot that's slowing you down, is affecting your pace and stopping you from moving forward. And do you know what? Paul had it right when he told us that we need to lay these things off, because we don't want to end up being people who are carrying so much weight in life that we end up standing still. So what is it for you in your life? Is it a sin? Is there somewhere where you're missing the mark, where you know this isn't quite right, this isn't quite how God would want me to be living my life? Is it a weight that's like that small stone in your welly boot that's stopping you from moving forward? Because I believe that tonight there are some people in this room that you need to do like Paul says, and you need to decide that it's time to lay these weights aside. That you need to decide that, do you know what, tonight I'm going to lay aside my unforgiveness. I'm going to lay aside my offense. I'm going to lay it aside. I don't want to carry it with me anymore. Some people tonight need to decide, I'm going to lay aside not looking after my health. I'm going to lay aside how I spend my time and wasting my time. I'm going to lay aside that offense. I'm going to lay aside that issue that I've got, that memory that I've got. I'm going to lay aside that anger issue that I've got in my life, because I want to be ready to run the race that is set before me and to achieve all that Jesus wants me to achieve and to enjoy all that he wants me to enjoy. So what's the answer? How do we do that? How do we kick it off? How do we lay it aside? And Paul gives us the answer as he goes on in this passage. Let's just look at it again. He says, lay aside every weight and the sin which so easily ensnares us, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith. You see, the key to laying all these things aside, whether you've been carrying them for weeks or whether you've been carrying them for decades, the key to laying all of these things aside is Jesus. We need to lay off these hindrances. We need to lay off these things that are slowing us down by looking to Jesus. Now, one thing I know is that God loves it when we make an effort, right? He loves it when we make an effort. He loves it when we come to church and we learn, and he loves it when we decide to talk to people about it. He loves it when we sign up to find out and to skill ourselves and to learn about things, and we get books, and he loves to see how we like to take an initiative and to do things. God loves it, and he appreciates it when we try and do stuff. But I tell you what, we can't do it on our own. We're going to fail every single time. We just can't do it. These issues, these things that are on the inside of us can sometimes be so deep and so heavy and so kind of tangled around us, is the way one verse talks about. They're ensnaring us. They're tangling us up. That to try and get out of that muddle and mess on our own, we just can't do it. Everyone say, I can't do it. But the truth is, we don't have to do it on our own, because Jesus has already done it for us. Everyone say, I can't do it. Everyone say, I don't have to do it. Everyone say, because Jesus has done it. Let's do that one more time. I can't do it. I don't have to do it, because Jesus has done it. Now it says to us in 2 Corinthians 5 verse 17, therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. All things have passed away. Behold, all things have become new. And what this famous verse is talking about is the fact that when you become a follower of Jesus, when you become a Christian, anyone, and that means anyone, Whatever your age, whatever your story, whatever your background, whatever baggage you may be carrying, whatever sin, whatever distraction, whether you feel good enough or not, anyone who is a follower of Jesus, anyone who is in Christ is a new creation. And that word is so important in that verse, because it's not saying that anyone who is a follower of Jesus will one day be a new creation, that anyone who is a follower of Jesus will at some point in the future be a new creation, that anyone who is a follower of Jesus will, when they've eventually dealt with everything in their life, be a new creation. It says when you become a follower of Jesus, you are a new creation. You are a new creation. Jesus does something on your inside. Jesus does something to your spirit, that in that moment you say yes to him, the moment you decide to follow him, you become a brand new creation. And I believe it's time that we started living from the inside out, that we started living from the new creation that we really are, that we don't live from what the baggage says we are, we don't live from the labels that get put on us, but we live from who we are in Jesus Christ. We need to learn to live on the outside who we truly are on the inside. There's a fantastic book, I was talking to our interns about it, called Classic Christianity by Bob George. If you've never read it, I would highly recommend getting your hands on this book, because it explains this in a way that I just never could. And I just want to quote one of the things that he says in here. Bob George says that Christians are continually trying to change their lives, but God calls us to experience the exchanged life. Let's just look at that again. Christians are continually trying to change their lives, but God calls us to experience a changed life, because we are a new creation. And it's time we started living from who Jesus has made us. It's time we started living from all that Jesus has secured from us. That even when we've done something wrong this morning, that we stand right before God, because Jesus has made us right before God. I am righteous. Even with my sin, even with my baggage, I am righteous. And as we start to look to Jesus, what he says of us, what he has done for us, who he has made us, we can begin to lay these hindrances aside, and we can press on into all that it is that God has for us. We need to start to live from the inside out. And this is what Jesus says, and this is what Jesus has done for you. That because I am a new creation, I am a new creation. Because of Jesus, I am free from the law of sin and death. Sin has no hold on me. I am free from the power of sin, so that can just go away. You know, because I'm a Christian and because of all Jesus has done for me, I am free from oppression, and fear has no hold on my life. Because of what Jesus has done for me on the inside, I am holy and blameless. I might still be battling with some things on the outside, but I am holy and blameless because of Jesus. Because of what Jesus has done for me, I have the mind of Christ. That even though I struggle with some thoughts and I can be negative at times, because of what Jesus has done for me, I have the mind of Christ, and I need to learn to let that be on the outside instead of what my past would say. Because of Jesus, I have the peace of God that surpasses all understanding. When all hell is breaking loose in my life around me, I have a peace that surpasses all understanding. Because of Jesus, I am right before God, whatever is going on in my life. Because of Jesus, I have received a spirit of wisdom and revelation, that when challenges lie in my way, I have wisdom to know what it is I need to do. That because of Jesus, I am more than a conqueror. Even when I don't feel like it on the outside, I am more than a conqueror. I am forgiven of all my sins, the ones that still creep their head up sometimes. I am forgiven of the things I haven't even done yet. I am forgiven because of Jesus. I am greatly loved by God. That no matter what anybody says, no matter what my past experiences have shown, no matter the label that anyone would put on me, I am loved by God because of Jesus. I am strengthened with all might according to his glorious power. I have self-control. I am joyful. I can love all people. I can be patient. I can be kind. I have all of this because of Jesus. And we need to learn to live from the inside of the new creation that we are, and live our lives from the inside out as we look to Jesus, the author and perfecter of our life. This is what it means to be a new creation. So stop trying to change your life And make your starting point the exchange life. Make your starting point that it's not I who live. It's not me trying to deal with all these issues, but it is Christ in me. And I'm going to live like that. I believe we need to get obsessed with Jesus. You know, imagine the difference that would make to our lives as we get obsessed with Jesus, as we allow ourselves to get infatuated with him and what he's done for us, as we allow ourselves to get so immersed in who Jesus is and how wonderful he is, as we allow ourselves to get preoccupied with Jesus, as we allow ourselves to be so obsessed and so gripped with Jesus, the change that would be on the outside because of the change we have already had on the inside, that suddenly we'll understand who I am in Jesus. We need to start to live on the outside who Jesus has made us on the inside. It's time for us to start living from the inside out. Why don't you all stand to your feet? The team are up and they're going to lead us in a song, and we're going to clear some sin away tonight. Thanks, Dad.